Hey everyone, and welcome to What Did I Miss? I'm Plain and Simple Eric, and today I will be breaking down the second part of the episode Terra Firma, which is the 10th episode of the third season of Star Trek Discovery. This is going to be a fun episode to review because not only did I love the episode, but if you follow the channel, you already know that I put out a couple of videos last week theorizing what would happen, and I turned out to be pretty close to the mark. Also, I just hit 1,000 subscribers this week and became monetized. So if you are a subscriber, please stick around to the end for a special thank you, and if you are not, I hope to change your mind over the next few minutes. What really makes this episode so great is that it not only satisfied the arc of the first half, but was able to show a big turn for a character and make it look natural. Georgiou has been the most complex role on the show since she was introduced, and has followed a strong line of characters on Star Trek whose methods sometimes do not align with the principles of the Federation. I also thought the episode was very well acted by the main players as well, and I will get into why a bit more in the spoiler part of the video. But mostly, as a lifelong fan of Star Trek, I thought this episode delivered a moment that was one of the biggest payoffs to fans of the franchise. The crew of the Discovery in the Prime universe did find some time to get some more information about the burn as well, and with there being only 3 episodes left this season, I'm sure the plotline will kick into high gear from here on out. I'll be putting out a video in a couple of days in which I play the trailer for next week and discuss, so be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you are not left asking, what did I miss? Alright, so this is your weekly spoiler warning. If you have not yet watched part 2, go watch it and jump right back here. The episode starts right after the last episode ended and Burnham is thrown into the brig. One thing I noticed after rewatching the original episode Mirror Mirror this week is that I think the facial scar that Osuken received in the past episode is a callback to the scar that the Mirror Universe version of Sulu also sported, since both of them are security officers. One of the interesting things I think Burnham says in the scene is that Georgiou is the one that promised the Empire, and to her specifically, more spoils and new worlds to conquer. This not only conveys to the viewer that Georgiou made this mess, but also I think it is a comment on the responsibility we have as mentors. Most people are ever evolving, but if people choose to follow you, they might not be as enlightened as you are if you choose to change your beliefs. So it is important to make choices that matter, because you never know how your actions will affect others. Burnham reveals to Georgiou that there is an alliance of races forming against her and mentions a bunch of races that we have already seen this season, like the Andorians, Coordinates, and Tellarites. But she also mentioned the Rigelians and Denoblians, who we have yet to see on Discovery, but we have seen before on the show Enterprise, as Dr. Phlox is a Denoblian. Georgiou allows Burnham to be tortured in the Agonizer as she returns to her quarters. Captain Killy meets her there, and I wonder if she is channeling Yeoman Rand with that hairstyle. Georgiou reveals that her plan is to have Tilly break Burnham until she reveals her co-conspirators. She quotes French poet Victor Hugo, not the Green Lanterns, and states that even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. They continue to torture Michael for what seems like months. At one point, it looks like they even bring in Dr. Colbert to revive her. I really like the red medical uniforms of the Terran Empire, obviously a big difference from the white, as I'm sure they are not as concerned with blood on. Detmer comes to visit Burnham and asks her to give in. Burnham looks like the Walking Dead here and actually reminded me of her character's last scene on the aforementioned show. Georgiou visits her with some fireflies and talks about her night terrors, which is fascinating because the Prime Universe version of Burnham also had nightmares. The firefly totem is symbolic of illuminating the light within us, which is exactly what has happened to Philippa, and she is trying to help Burnham go through the same metamorphosis. But if you notice, these fireflies are not free, they are captured, and Philippa controls them within this container, which is also symbolic as well of how Burnham feels as Georgiou's daughter. So really, this gesture perfectly encapsulates both Georgiou and Burnham's motivations that will remain constant throughout the episode. Burnham gets up and starts to eat. For me, this gave away the end of the episode because she gets up in such a robotic way, it's as if she were waiting for Philippa to break down and speak with her like this to enact the next phase of her plan. Burnham goes to Georgiou and apologizes and pledges her loyalty. She states that she will root out all of her co-conspirators and execute them. She also states that Philippa can trust her again. Detmer and Burnham take out Landry first, who can't seem to get a break in any universe and is killed once again. Did anyone else think that Detmer was going to get her face prosthetic back after the blast? Maybe she didn't have time to, because after Burnham produces all the badges of the people she killed, she promptly kills Detmer right in front of Georgiou. Detmer calls Burnham her captain, so I'm thinking Michael is captain of the Shinzo at this point. There was also a promo photo released for this episode that showed an injured Bryce on the bridge speaking to Burnham and Detmer, so his kill scene must have been filmed but removed from this episode. They retire to eat and Burnham states that the coalition she discussed has been destroyed. They plot to find Lorca and Burnham states that he uses the alias Vicar, which Georgiou interprets as substitute, but I think it may be a clue that Lorca also knows about the Mirror Universe. Georgiou speaks with Saru, who I think in this universe does not even have a name, and states that she wants him to stay with her and not go back to Burnham. Mir Saru says that he thinks he is dying because of his Vihari, but Philippa tells him that the process does not cause death and gives him the means to survive it. She also tells him about Prime Saru, which inspires him. She tells him that she knows she can trust him, and that he needs to teach others to avenge the mistakes of the past, which is the very thing she's trying to do herself. Mir Saru knows this will put her in danger and implores her to return to wherever she is from. Back on the bridge, Commander Arium is at her post, sans cybernetic implants, and states that they have intercepted a coded message to Vicar from someone named Duggan, who goes by the alias Carnelian, which is Latin for flesh. I think that this name also foreshadows the end of the episode, as one could interpret them finding this individual and what occurs later as a pound of flesh of the ultimate plan. The actor who plays Duggan is named Daniel Cash and has some experience in sci-fi, having appeared in both Aliens and the new RoboCop. The signal is found to be at Riza, which was a resort planet in the Prime universe, though there's no telling what it is in the Mirror universe. Killy at first suggests that she and Burnham go to find him, but Philippa states that they will all go, and Killy orders Commander Nilsson to take the ship to warp. I think it's kind of ironic that the Mirror version of Nilsson takes over for Detmer after she is killed, much like her Prime counterpart took over for Arium after she was also killed. Also, if you're wondering why the Discovery did not jump there, is because their version of Stamets was killed by Philippa in the last episode. They destroy the ship and put Duggan in the brig. They meet him there, and quickly Burnham kills the man and points the gun next at Georgiou. Reese and Nilsson appear and kill the two officers in the room, and it looks like Culber is in on their side as well. Burnham states that songs will be sung about her and what she has done, which is something shown to be very prominent in Klingon culture. Philippa tries to get Michael to change one last time, and she refuses just as Philippa's reinforcements arrive. Saru, having survived the Vihari, turns into a one Kelpian wrecking crew as he shoots Culber and throws him against the ceiling. This may be a hint at what Saru is now capable of in the Prime universe as well. Michael and Georgiou then fight to the death, literally, as they both deal each other killing blows. Philippa watches Burnham die by her hand again, and then is held by Saru as he explains that he survived his Vihari as Tilly and Osuk look on. She states that he passed through it just as we hear Carl, who we met in the first part of the episode, say the same thing. Philippa awakens and is extremely unnerved at what has taken place, given that she thinks she has just died. Carl also says something about getting acquainted with new technology, which foreshadows Book and the crew working together later on in the episode. Philippa asks what day it is, and Carl once again shows the newspaper he had last episode. This time the headline has changed. If you want to know about the other Easter eggs hidden on the newspaper, I went over them in depth, and a few people were able to list a couple more in the comments, so I'll put a link to that video in the description. Philippa gets upset and demands to know what is going on, and if what she experienced was just a dream. But Carl tells her to look at her wrist, and it states that 3 months worth of events have been recorded there, meaning the events did occur somewhere, even though Burnham states only a few seconds have passed. This is also another example of the number 3 showing up this season, which I have been tracking and I believe leads to the answer of the burn, and I will link that theory video in the description as well. This also reminded me of the fantastic Next Generation episode, The Inner Light, in which Picard lives out 30 to 40 years in his mind, and there was an O'Brien Must Suffer episode on Deep Space Nine in which he did the same. Carl says that there are many versions of each of us, and that one is dying in the Mirror universe while she stands there, as Philippa once again begins to go out of phase, showing us that her ailment has not been cured. Burnham pleads with Carl to state who he really is, and holy crap, he reveals himself to be the Guardian of Forever. I don't know about you, but I got some of the biggest goosebumps I've ever gotten after he states his name and then creates the portal that we last saw in the original series episode, City on the Edge of Forever. Discovery also used the same line and audio from the original actor in the episode during this scene. It is true that I hypothesized that Carl was the Guardian of Forever, and that this was a test for Philippa to pass in my last theory video. And a lesser man may gloat and boast about having been mostly right about this character and plot. But I'm not that kind of person. I have a little thing called integrity, and I just hope that each week everyone gets something out of the content that I produce. Back on Discovery and in the Prime universe, Stamets and Adira are still working on the signal issue, and it looks like they have hit a roadblock, just as Reno comes in, who has been absent from the last few episodes. Am I the only one that really wanted to see a mirror version of Reno? I mean, what would that even be like? Let me know in the comments. Did you want to see a mirror Reno? And do you think this is the last time we see the mirror universe? Book comes in and states that he read the field and technical manuals and realized that the crew is not aware of all the uses of new technology, especially when it comes to subspace travel. He could be a very important member of the crew, not only as someone who understands this time they are in now, but as someone like a Garrick character that can work between the lines when needed. Not to beat a dead horse, but this was also something I hypothesized in my last video. Back on the planet, the Guardian reveals himself to be a space-time portal. He states that in the past, he was fine with letting people go through as long as they fix history when they mess it up. But because of the temporal wars, he is now in hiding. I think this line directly references the events of the episode City on the Edge of Forever. Philippa is still breaking apart, and the Guardian reveals that he tested her to see if she has changed. She believes she failed because the end was the same, and the Guardian reveals that she did try for peace, and that version of Saru will help others. A sphere appears briefly in his hand, and it affects the doorway as he asks Philippa to walk through, sending her to a time when the universes were not so far apart. He leaves as Burnham and Georgiou say their goodbyes. Georgiou admits that she had a chance before with someone named San, who was the individual we have seen her cry out for during her episodes. Burnham tells her to tell the people she meets about him, further driving home the theme of the season, which is connection. Philippa also tells her that while Saru has done a great job, that he is not the only one suited for a captain's chair. I really loved how they left each other, each giving the other the utmost respect. Also, if you think about the meaning of the Terran slogan, Terra Firma, Terra Eterna, it could be interpreted as solid ground forever, which sounds an awfully lot like live long and prosper. Back on the ship, Saru lets Admiral Vance know that they have established contact with the vessel in the nebula using Emerald Chain technology provided by Book. Vance is less than enthused about how they came about this and questions their tactics. He implores them to be more careful and tells Book that he needs to follow Starfleet protocol, but instead, Book states that since their enemy does not follow the rules, maybe it's good to have someone around that does not either. I get why this would be useful, but for Vance, this should shake him because if Book does not stand for the ideals of Starfleet, you can't have him representing you. They get a message that Burnham will be returning to the ship alone, and Book leaves to comfort her. After he leaves, Vance also asks Saru if he is distracted by the fact that the ship is a Kelpian one, and if this is clouding his judgment. Saru states it is not an issue, and the Admiral approves their plan to use the technology Book provided, while also stating his condolences for the loss of Georgiou. I keep talking about it, but I love the scenes with Saru and Vance, and I hope that Vance stays around for next season. Burnham is not able to tell the crew what happened to Georgiou because of the nature of the Guardian and the Temporal Wars, and Saru states that she will be listed as deceased. We then see the crew holding an Irish wake for Georgiou and talking about what they liked about her. I thought this was very touching and had to remind myself not to feel bad because she actually isn't dead, just somewhere else. That somewhere else is probably her own show, which now could be anywhere and about anything. Michelle Yeoh will also be co-starring in the MCU movies Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings in July of 2021. I really like this episode, and I'm glad I did not rate it after just watching last week, because this part really satisfied the story presented in the first half. I loved how they really leaned into the Guardian of Forever and brought it back in all of its cheesy 1960s glory. I also like how they tied it into the narrative of the Temporal Wars, as well as tying into the knowledge of the sphere data, which just strengthens the connective tissue of these stories throughout the structure of the Star Trek cosmos. I also want to say that I think Sonequa Martin Green really nailed her performances in these episodes, and I am sad that we may never get a chance to see Miriam Burnham again. People always complain about the crying, and I thought it was fitting in her last toast to Philippa. She only cries one tear. Honestly, if I knew a Star Trek fan that had never watched Discovery, I may start them with this episode just because it really touches on all the great things that make a great Star Trek story, which are nostalgia, character growth, action, heart, and humor. Finally, and this is if you have subscribed to the channel, I want to share that I reached 1,000 subscribers this week, and I am now monetized. So thank you very much for helping me reach this milestone, and I am very excited for 2021 and what content I can bring. Besides Star Trek, I will also be reviewing and breaking down movies and series based on comic books, like the video I just put out that goes over everything coming out for Marvel over the next 3 years. So check out that if you want to catch up on all the new information Marvel released last week in under 25 minutes. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you have not yet, and I will see you next time on What Did I Miss?